Yo, what is going on, guys? It's your boy Keaton Talk Sports here, back with another video. As always, do me a favor, like, comment, subscribe. Link is in the box below. This is my NFL tier list of how many games I think each team will win for the 2024 NFL season. I'm gonna give you guys the reasons why I have these teams where they are at their respective positions. So, with that being said, let's not waste any more time. This is my NFL tier list for the 2024-25 NFL season. First team we're going to do, we're going to start off with the 49ers, and they're going to go 12 to 14 wins this year. I mean, this 49ers team obviously made it to the Super Bowl last year, lost to the Kansas City Chiefs after being up 10-0, had plenty of opportunities to win that game and stuff like that. So they're going to be motivated to come out this year, and we'll see if they can get back to the Super Bowl, but it's going to be tougher because the NFC is getting better. There's a lot of good teams out there that can make their case to get through the NFC, but the 49ers are still the team to beat until proven otherwise. So I expect this team to be in that range between 12 to 14 wins. Next team we're going to do is Arizona Cardinals, and I have them between 4 to 6 wins this year. I think this Cardinals team, looking at last year, they really played well, especially towards the end of the year after getting Kyler Murray back. I love what they did in the draft by getting obviously Marvin Harrison with the 4th pick to solidify the offense. He's obviously the Cardinals' #1 receiver there. I love the pickup of Darius Robinson from the Missouri. I think that's a phenomenal pickup for that defense as they desperately need pass rush help. They're one of the worst teams in the league this year or last year in that area. So I expect them to improve a little bit. So I think this Cardinals team could be right between that 5 to 6 wins, maybe even 7 if things really play out for them. So I think the Cardinals will be improved in 2024. I think they go 6-11 in my opinion. Next team is the Baltimore Ravens, and they're going to be between 12 to 14 wins. I mean, like I said, this Ravens team got to the conference championship game last year, losing to the Chiefs in that low-scoring affair there at home. Disappointing way to end the season because I thought this team would have been a Super Bowl contender, what they were, but I thought they would get to the Super Bowl last year. But now you added a guy like Derrick Henry, who's going to really make that running game that much more dangerous. I think he fits in tremendously. Knowing the Ravens, they love to run the ball and play solid defense. Really just play in the trenches on both sides of the ball. So I think, the Ravens are going to be running the ball a lot this year, try to milk that clock and keep the game short. I think that's going to be tough for some defenses to stop because Derrick Henry obviously is the best running back in football, in my opinion. So the Ravens, despite them losing Patrick Queen on the defensive side of the ball, I still think the Ravens are going to be okay. I still think they're going to win that division, in my opinion. So I have the Ravens going right between 12 to 14 wins this year in 2024. Next team out, the Buffalo Bills, and I have them going between 10 and 11 wins. Believe it or not, despite the Buffalo Bills losing some key pieces in the offseason, like, Stephon Diggs to Texans, Gabe Davis to the Jacksonville Jaguars, Micah Hyde to that defense, Jordan Poyer as well to the back end of that defense. I still think until the Bills get knocked off in the AFC East, I still have them winning the division. Like I said, you can't write off Josh Allen. If Josh Allen proves me wrong that he can still be a top 5 quarterback, which I believe he can be, I think that's going to be a solid year, especially the type of offseason that they've had. I think the Bills, nobody's really talking about them. A lot of talk has been on the Jets, which I get, but they haven't proven anything. The Buffalo Bills, I expect to win the division once again in 2024. Will not surprise me one bit to see them right around that 10 to 11 win range. Next team is the Carolina Panthers, and they're a 1 to 3 win team. I mean, it's not much discussion here. I mean, the Carolina Panthers are going to be one of the worst teams in football again next year. I do like the pickups of Travion Sanders from the tight end from Texas, and then Xavier Legette from South Carolina. So Bryce Young does have some pieces to work with. Those 2 guys in the draft, I think they're really solid guys to help Bryce Young improve on the offense side. And obviously the protection was poor last year. He was sacked out of any other quarterback in the league. So we'll see if the offensive line can hold up for the 2024 season. But I don't expect much more improvement for the Carolina Panthers. I expect them to be one of the worst teams fighting for that one of those top picks in next year's draft. Next team is the Chicago Bears, and I have them between 7 to 9 wins. This Bears team had a phenomenal offseason from top to bottom. I mean, if you were to ask me months ago, do I think Caleb Williams is in a great situation, I would have called you crazy. But now with all the moves that they've made by getting Keenan Allen in free agency, getting Roman Dunze in the draft, getting Devontae or Swift from the Eagles, I mean, Caleb Williams couldn't have been walking into a better situation. I think he's in the best situation, really, out of any other rookie quarterback in the league. You know, he's got talent around him to work with on the outside. Now, obviously, he's going to have his flaws. He's going to have his, he's a rookie, so he's going to have some growing pains here and there. But I'm very, very high on the Chicago Bears team. I think they can really be competitive and potentially even make the playoffs if things play out. But for them, I'm sticking them right between 7 and 9 wins. I think more realistically, I think they go either 7 and 10 or 8 and 9. I think that's a solid first year for Chicago. I think they're moving in the right direction. Especially, look at last year. They played really well on the defensive side of the ball towards the end of last year. So I expect nothing less. I think their defense is going to be solid. I think Caleb Williams is going to ball out, even though there's going to be some growing pains in there. But I think the Chicago Bears are going to be much more improved in 2024. So I'll have them right in that 7 to 9 win range. Next team is Cincinnati Bengals, and I have the Bengals going between 10 to 11 wins. This Bengals team obviously finished last in the AFC North last year. Given that Joe Burrow was hurt, obviously, they still finished 9 and 8 in a competitive division. But now that Joe Burrow's back, I expect them to be more motivated than any other quarterback in the league to go out there to go from first to maybe a playoff berth in 2024 is definitely possible, given that they still retain some of their guys. Jamar Chase is still there. T. Higgins is still there. He's been a lot of trade rumors as of late. The defense, I think, will be pretty solid on that side. So, I mean, the Bengals really have everything they need in terms of weapons on the outside for Joe Burrow. Still one of the best wide receiver duos in the game with Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. I love the pickup of Amarius Mims for the offensive line because it gives Joe Burrow more protection that he desperately needs. He's been taking a lot of hits throughout his career. So you keep Joe Burrow upright, and then obviously the weapons that he has on the outside, I think the Bengals will be competitive, and they'll definitely be in the mix for a playoff berth in 2024. If not winning the division, if things really play out for them. Next team, I have the Cleveland Browns, and I have them between 7 to 9 wins. I mean, this Browns team, you look at their situation, they have the toughest schedule in all of football. Now, if there's one team that can prove me wrong, it is this Cleveland Browns team because I love their defense. Myles Garrett is a beast on that side. Nick Chubb obviously was hurt last year or whatever it was. So he's a beast at the running back. He's honestly one of the best running backs, if not the best running back in the game. That running game for the Browns is going to be crucial and stuff like that. I think, one question it's going to come down to is what type of Deshaun Watson are we going to get in 2024? Because I believe if we can get somewhat of a Deshaun Watson that we got in Houston, I think the Browns are going to be really good. I think they can win more than 8 to 9 games. But at the same time, I just don't know how much Deshaun Watson is going to be able to do in this 2024 NFL season. I think it's going to come down to him, in my opinion, because we already know how good the defense is. We know how good the run game is. It's just going to be a matter of you paid all that money to Deshaun Watson. You got rid of all those draft picks for Deshaun Watson. He's got to show up and do something. Because I think this Browns team has talent, despite them being in a loaded division and having the toughest schedule in the league. I think that's what it's going to come down to. But I have the Browns right around that 7 to 9 win range if things really play out for them. So we'll see what happens in a tough division. Next team is the Dallas Cowboys. I have them between 10 to 11 wins, despite them not really doing much in the offseason. Pretty quiet in free agency there for the Cowboys. I like the Tyler Guyton pickup, even though he's a bit raw, to keep Dak Prescott upright. I mean, it's a Cowboys team every year. I mean, really the last 3 years, they've been a 12-5 team, and they've been a one-and-done team in the playoffs. I don't expect much of anything different for the Cowboys. I expect them to be in the playoff. I think they are a playoff team. I think they'll sneak in, maybe as a 6 or 7 seed. I don't think they'll win the division because I think the Eagles are better than them, in my opinion. But the Cowboys will sneak in, and obviously, despite however many games they win, if they're between that 10, 11, maybe even 12 win range, I expect them to be a one and done team again. It's really going to come down to like what type of Dak Prescott we're going to get. I said the same thing about Deshaun Watson. We all know what Dak Prescott can do in the regular season, but once that postseason comes around, he does not show up at all. So if you're about that talk, your Cowboys fans have been talking all offseason. Dak Prescott has been talking a little bit this offseason how they're going to do something, how, they're going to be a Super Bowl contender. Okay, prove it to me. Prove it to me. Because you're all about talk, but you're not about action. Okay? So I think if Dallas doesn't show up this season, I think if Dak doesn't perform in the playoffs this year, once again, if they lose in the first round, don't be surprised if the Dallas Cowboys move on from Dak Prescott after this season. Because I could see him, honestly, I could see him going somewhere else because I don't think he's the answer, in my opinion, for the Dallas Cowboys going forward if you're trying to get to that Super Bowl. So that's just my opinion, but that's where I have the Cowboys between that 10 to 11 win range. Next team is the Denver Broncos, and they're going to be between, I think they're going to be between 1 and 3 wins. I mean, I'm just not really sold with this Denver Broncos team. Bo Nix, I think, is the right quarterback for them for the future. Obviously, after losing Russell Wilson, we pretty much knew how that marriage went between Russell Wilson and Sean Payton. Obviously, that marriage was pretty short. Both those guys didn't get along together. So the Denver Broncos are starting fresh. You got Zach Wilson there in that quarterback room. You got Jarrett Stidham still there. So, I mean, honestly, either one of those guys could honestly start. I mean, I don't think it's really much of a I think it will be a quarterback controversy, whatever you want to call it. But I don't think either one of those quarterbacks are that much better than whoever it is. Like my point is like if Bo Nix starts, it wouldn't surprise me if he started throughout the entire season. If Zach Wilson starts, who has experience, it would not surprise me. I think he will be the starter, in my opinion, just because he has that experience. I think Bo Nix, my opinion, I think he should sit and learn for a little bit before just being thrown out there on the NFL football field, and stuff like that. But that's just my opinion. But either way, the overall roster is just not good at all. I mean, the defense is decent, but just overall, I just don't think Sean Payton, in my opinion, with given his age and how successful he's been in his coaching career, I don't think he's the right coach for the Denver Broncos. I think the Denver Broncos, in my opinion, need a younger coach in there for a rebuilding team. I just don't think the timeline with Sean Payton, where he is in his career, like, is he going to want to stick around for a 3 to 5 year rebuild if you're the Broncos? Because it's probably what it's going to take for them to get back into playoff contention. It's probably going to take about 3 to 5 years for Denver to be back in the playoffs in that tough division, in that stacked division in AFC West. So my point is, Denver has a long way to go. I think Broncos fans are going to have to be very patient in 2024 because I think it's going to be a rough year for you guys. And I expect you guys, just in my opinion, I expect you guys to have a top 3 pick in this year's or next year's draft. So I had the Broncos right around that 3-win range, 3-14. Looking at their schedule and they just don't have the talent to compete, in my opinion. Next team is the Detroit Lions, and I have them between 12 to 14 wins. I mean, like I said before, the team got to the conference championship game last year, losing to the San Francisco 49ers. Again, they probably should have won if Dan Campbell decided not to be an idiot and go for it twice instead of kicking the field goals to go up 3 possessions there. Now, if you would have kicked the field goals, the Lions probably would have won that game, to be honest. You go up 27-10, you make the 49ers come back. Now you keep the 49ers in the game by going for it, not converting. But like I said, this Lions team, I love what they did in the draft by getting Terrion Arnold, getting Rakestraw from Missouri. So 2 guys for the back end of that defense who is going to make that defense that much better. We already know they had one of the best offenses last year, but their defense couldn't get really good stops on a weekend basis. But I think that improves in 2024, given, like I said, those 2 guys are very disciplined on that side, and it's really going to help them out tremendously. So I expect the Detroit Lions to win in the North again. Jared Goff obviously just got the bag, so we'll see if he can step up to the plate again in 2024, or will he take a step back? We don't know. I'll let you Lions fans debate that down in the comments. But yeah, but I expect this Lions team to be in the mix for a Super Bowl run again in that division. And just looking at their schedule, they should be able to honestly cruise through the regular season to a really solid record. So I have the Lions right between that 12 to 14 win range. Next team is the Philadelphia Eagles. Same thing I said. They're a 12 to 14 win team. I think this team is going to be a lot more improved in 2024, especially in the back end of that defense. Really look at last year after that 49er game. The Eagles, they couldn't get stops. Their defense just really took a step back after that game, and it just rode on to the end of the year. Now you got your guys in Quinton Mitchell and Cooper DeJean for that defense. Both guys that are very disciplined at their respective positions, at the right spots at the right time. So if you're a quarterback out there, if you're not aware of where those two guys are on the football field, they're going to make you pay and they're going to turn you over. So I think the Eagles defense will be better next year. We already know they have a lot of talent offensively. So I think this team is a sneaky Super Bowl contender once again in 2024. So I expect them to be right in that 12 to 14 win range for this year. And honestly, they're in a pretty weak division. They should be able to dominate the NFC East this year. Next team, I have the Atlanta Falcons, and I have them between 7 to 9 wins. And this Atlanta Falcons team, I still have questions, though, what they did with the 8th pick. I mean, I don't really understand still to this, to this day. I still understand the Michael Penix pickup at 8. I thought Dallas Turner would have been the lock for them at 8 because they need pass rush help. At that, at edge rusher, they struggled to get to the quarterback last year on a consistent basis. Dallas Turner would have just made that defense that much scary, and I probably would have had the Falcons probably winning that division. They could still win the division, but I still don't understand the Michael Penix pickup because you just signed Kirk Cousins to a 4-year deal, and then you bring in Michael Penix. So it's like, is he going to sit for 2 years or 3 years? I mean, he's already 24 years of age. So by the time he sees the field, he's going to be about 26, 27 years old if Kirk Cousins somehow doesn't play out. So it's going to be interesting to see how those two quarterbacks coexist together on the same team, because I thought Kirk Cousins would have been the guy going forward, and you get Dallas Turner to solidify that defense. I thought that's what they would have done, but they decided to go in a different direction and surprise everyone. So, but where the Falcons are in that weak division, NFC South, they should be in that 7 to 9 win range, fighting for that division crown. I think it's going to be tight between them, the Saints, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to win that division. So I think it's anybody's race. So I think the Falcons will be in the mix there, 7 to 9 win team there. Next team is the Green Bay Packers, and I have them going between 10 and 11 wins. This Packers team obviously got to the divisional round last year, losing to the San Francisco 49ers in the divisional round 24-21. A game they probably should have won if they would have made some plays down the stretch, but really give the 49ers defense credit. They really made life difficult at the end of the game. It did rain at the end of the game, but still, both teams had opportunities to win. San Francisco took advantage of that, and Green Bay didn't. But I like what Green Bay did in the draft, getting Jordan Morgan, 6'5", 6'6", a guy that's going to protect Jordan Love, who had a phenomenal year last year. I think Jordan Love is only going to continue to get better. I think this Packers team is a sneaky team. I think this is going to be a motivated team that's going to try and do what they can to get farther in the playoffs this year. So we'll see what happens. They got their hands full, obviously, with the Detroit Lions and then with the Chicago Bears on the come up. So that's going to be a fun division to watch. But I expect the Packers to be in that 10 to 11 win range once again in 2024. Next team is the Houston Texans, and I expect this team to be in that 12 to 14 win range. This Houston Texans team had a disappointing end to the year last year by losing the Ravens in the divisional round. I like what they did in the offseason. I mean, Stephon Diggs, a bona fide number 1 receiver. I think he's going to come in and make an immediate impact to that Houston Texans offense. CJ Stroud coming off of a stellar rookie season. I think he's only going to continue to get better. Another guy that's in a great situation with talent around him. I think an improved defense next year with, like I said, what they did in the draft and stuff like that. So my point is that the Houston Texans are going to be in the mix for a Super Bowl run. It would not surprise me one bit to see his team make it to the AFC Championship game or even the Super Bowl So they'll be in the mix for that. But I think the Houston Texans in that division, like I said, they should dominate that division. In the AFC South, you got teams like Jacksonville and the Colts. They'll have something to say about that, but that's the Texans division to lose, in my opinion. So I expect them to be in that 12 to 14 win range in 2024. Next team, I have the Indianapolis Colts, and I expect them to be between 10 to 11 wins. I think this Colts team, I mean, really look at last year. They went 9-8 last year, one game away from making the playoffs. One game. All they had to do was win that game against the Texans in week 18, and you're in the playoffs. And they didn't even really have a quarterback last year. I know Anthony Richardson was hurt last year, but Gardner Minshew is, like I said, he's a bridge quarterback, a guy that almost got his team to the playoffs. I think he's really going to help the Raiders tremendously. But like I said, when he was with the Colts last year, he almost got his team to the playoffs. So the Colts are going to be competitive once again in 2024. If Anthony Richardson just stays healthy, along with the acquisitions that they got, I love the Latu pickup in the draft. I love the AD Mitchell pickup in the second round for the Colts. Gives Anthony Richardson another weapon to work with on the outside. So this Colts team is going to be dangerous. The fact that some people don't even have this team in the winning more than 7 games, I think that's laughable. I think this team is going to be sneaky good with an improved defense, and then with the weapons that Anthony Richardson has at his disposal. I expect that team to be towards the bottom of the playoff mix. They'll probably sneak in maybe as a 6, maybe a 7 seed in the AFC. So we'll see what happens. But I think this team will be improved in 2024. I think this team is easily a 10 wins or more. So that's where I have the Colts finishing. Next team is the Jacksonville Jaguars, and I have them between 7 to 9 wins. My opinion, I just think this Jags team, looking at last year, I believe they had one of the easiest schedules last year, and they still missed the playoffs. They really got off to a hot start early on in the season. I think they started off like 6-2 or 7-2, and they finished 8-9, I believe, last year. Very disappointing ends to last year. But like I said, Trevor Lawrence has talent now. You just got Brian Thomas Jr., probably one of the most explosive wide receivers in this draft to work with. You lost Calvin Ridley this offseason. You got Eric Armstead from the San Francisco 49ers, which I think that's a phenomenal pickup, which is going to improve that defense a lot. So my point is, the Jacksonville Jaguars, it's up to Trevor Lawrence, in my opinion, to show up. You have talent around you now. Is he gonna choke at the end of the year? Is Jacksonville gonna start off hot and then just come falling down to earth at the end of the year? Are they gonna show up and win games that they're supposed to win? Or are they going to lose the teams that they shouldn't be losing to? Because that's what they're known for. Last year they had a couple games where I think they should have won, and stuff like that. That really cost them from making the playoffs. So Jacksonville has to get off to a good start here. I think this is going to be a big year, in my opinion, for Trevor Lawrence to show up, put up or shut up, basically. So the Jacksonville Jaguars is another team that I think they'll be fighting for a playoff spot. I have them right between that 9 win range. The 8 to 9 win range. I think they'll be better or be behind the Colts and the Texans, but it should be a really, really tight race. So it could go either way, but that's where I have the Jacksonville Jaguars finishing. Next team, I have the Kansas City Chiefs, and obviously they're 2-time reigning defending Super Bowl champions. They'll be between 12 to 14 wins. Look at it last year. Despite them winning the Super Bowl, they did lead the league in dropped passes. I do like the Xavier Worthy pickup, but like I said, there's some variables in there. With how fast he is tend to drop the ball at times. So when it gets to games that matter, like games that really count, can Patrick Mahomes rely on Xavier Worthy to be that guy for them, in late game situations? It's going to be interesting to see how he steps in from Texas to the NFL level. I think he is, like I say, he is fast. It's just going to be a matter of, can you catch consistently? Because, we all know what Patrick Mahomes can do with his legs, and then he'll put the ball right where it needs to be. It's just going to be a matter of, can those receivers catch the ball consistently throughout the season? So I'm curious to see what the Chiefs do. I'm curious to see how they start the season, because obviously they're 2-time reigning defending Super Bowl champions. You start off the season, both games at home, but against Baltimore and Cincinnati. So do they start off with a loss? Or do they come out guns blazing and prove to the world once again that the Chiefs are here and they're on the mission to three-peat. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do this season. You can never write off Patrick Mahomes. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid on those sidelines, you're always going to be in the mix for a Super Bowl. And like I said, I hope they don't win the Super Bowl. But it would not surprise me one bit if they were back in the conference championship game. So we'll see what happens. But it'll be a tougher road because I think the Texans are better, are much improved. The Ravens will have something to say about that after losing to the Chiefs. So, but the Chiefs are still a team to beat until proven otherwise. So they'll be between that 12 to 14 win range there. Next team is the Los Angeles Chargers, and I have them going between 7 and 9 wins. I mean, this team, I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he's the right pickup for not pickup. I think he's the right fit for that team. Brandon Staley, obviously, last year was just not the guy. I mean, despite the Chargers being loaded on both sides of the ball, just looking at the roster last year, they were pretty good. They just didn't, the coaching staff, but Brandon Staley just lost the locker room last year. It clearly showed towards the end of the year. Guys just gave up on him and all that stuff. So we pretty much knew he was out the door there. But Jim Harbaugh, I think he's coming in. I think he's putting his foot down on what he wants to be for this organization and this team. They're going to be a team that's going to be building through the trenches. Love the Joe Alt pickup in the draft. Love the Lat McConkey pickup. Gives Justin Herbert another weapon on the outside to work with. The Colson pickup on defense from Michigan. So we pretty much knew that Jim Harbaugh is going to be, building through the trenches type of coach, knowing that when just what he did at Michigan. Obviously, you have a winning coach that won a national championship at Michigan. I think he's going to bring that winning culture to the Chargers. I think players are going to respond to him. They're going to play hard for him. I think this team is going to be competitive. Now, is that going to result in the playoffs? We'll see. I have them right between that 8 to 9 win range, so it's going to be close. I think they'll be much more improved in 2024. So we'll see how they put it together. I still think they're light years away from the Chiefs, but they'll be at least competitive in 2024. They'll put themselves in most of these games, and they'll be just outside looking in. But I expect this team to improve a lot in 2024, right around that 8 to 9 win range. Next team, I have the Los Angeles Rams, and I have them going between 10 and 11 wins. I mean, this Rams team, despite them losing Aaron Donald to retirement, I do love the Jared Verse pickup from Florida State. I think a guy, like I've been saying in my posts or in my past mocks, that dude is ferocious, efficient at getting off the line, and like I said, a guy that I would not want to go up against. He can get to the backfield easily, and I think he's going to fit in right. He's going to fit in right away with that Rams team, and it's going to keep their defense competitive. Now, is their defense going to be as good as they were last year with Aaron Donald? Probably not, but they'll be respectable. I think, like I said, Jared Verse is up to the challenge. I think looking at the offensive talent that the Rams already have, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, Matthew Stafford, we already know he has a strong arm if he stays healthy. I mean, I think this Rams team, like I said, about the I think it was the Bengals or something like that. Whatever team I talked about. My point is, I think this Rams team can be a sneaky Super Bowl contender if things really play out for them and stuff like that. So we'll see what they do. It's going to be exciting to see how they respond to losing Detroit last year. So that's going to be an exciting week one matchup between the Rams and the Lions. So I'm excited to see how the Rams come out there after losing. Again, they probably should have won if they were able to get in the red zone more consistently in last year's playoffs. So, the Rams will be right between that 10-11 win range in 2024. Next team is the Las Vegas Raiders, and I have them going between 7 to 9 wins. I think this Raiders team, Gardner Minshew obviously is the quarterback. Aiden McConnell is also in the room. Those guys are be going at for that starting position. I would have loved to see the Raiders get Michael Penix. I was hoping he would have fell to the Raiders. I think Michael Penix would have been a phenomenal fit with that team and with an Antonio Pierce led team there, obviously. But the Falcons had other plans to take him at 8. My point is, Gardner Minshew is no scrub. He's a bridge quarterback, a guy that almost got the Colts to the playoffs last year, one game away from taking the Colts to the playoffs last year. And I think it'll be the same situation this year. I think he'll keep the Raiders relevant. They'll be right around that 500 mark, and I think they're going to be fighting to get in one of those last playoff spots in the AFC. So it's going to be a great fight for that last spot. We'll see what happens there. Love what they did in the draft, getting Brock Bowers. A little bit of a surprise. I didn't think Brock Bowers would have gone to the Raiders. But they got him there, and I think it's going to be, in my opinion, it's going to be a tough offense to stop, because now you got Brock Bowers, and then you got Devontae Adams on the other side of that offensive line. So now he's not going to be getting double teamed as much now, because now you got to worry about Brock Bowers on the other side. So now a guy that can separate, guy that can catch and get yards after the catch. Dude's very versatile. So it's going to be, the Raiders are going to be much improved on the offense. Their defense is already nasty on that side and stuff like that. So I mean, they're going to be a competitive team. They're going to be in the playoff mix. So they'll be right in the middle of the pack of making the playoffs. So we'll see what happens, and we'll see how things fall for them. But they should be right in the mix in 2024 once again. Next team is the Miami Dolphins, and I have the Dolphins going between, I would say, 7 to 9 wins as well. I mean, like I said before, this Dolphins team, they always get off to a hot start each and every year, and they come falling down to earth towards, once December comes around, they collapse every single year. Now, Jalen Wall just got his bag. I think it's much deserved, because that easily he's the best receiver on that team. Tyreek Hill obviously is pretty solid there, but before Tyreek Hill got there, Waller was the number one receiver on that team. So he got his bag. I think it's much deserved. We'll see if Tua can get his bag as well. I'm not going to get into discussion whether I think he deserves the bag or not. I'm going to let you Dolphins fans or you fans debate that down in the comments. But just overall, this Miami team, they have a tough schedule. I mean, just go look at their schedule. They have a tough schedule. It's not an easy schedule, okay? Look at the last, 5 games of the season are against playoff caliber teams. And we all know what the story was last year. Miami Dolphins can play well against teams that aren't above 500, teams that they obviously know that they can beat. But then when they go up against an actual playoff contender, they don't show up. Now, if you can't figure out a way to beat teams like the Chiefs, beat teams like the Ravens or the Texans or whoever, the Bengals, teams that are over 500, if you can't find a way to beat those type of teams, you're not going anywhere. You're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter how talented the wide receiver room is with the Miami Dolphins. We already know how talented they are offensively at wide receiver. It's going to come down to Tua. How well does he play this year? And it's going to come down to, can they get wins against teams over 500? Because you can't call yourself a Super Bowl contender if you can't beat teams, if you can't beat playoff caliber teams. Now, the Dolphins obviously had a big lead in the division last year, because I thought they would be able to get home field advantage throughout the AFC playoffs last year. And then they started losing games toward the end of the year, and then Buffalo started to come up, and it came down to that last game of the regular season, and they ended up losing the division to the Buffalo Bills for a 4th straight year. So my point is, if you're a Dolphins team that doesn't want to go on the road for the playoffs, you're going to have to get home field advantage. Is it going to happen? Hell no, it ain't going to happen, because that's not what it's not going to come down to that. So the Dolphins are going to have to go on the road to either Baltimore, Kansas City, a cold destination, and try to get a win. So I think if the Dolphins don't get it done this year, if they end up getting in the playoffs and losing the first round or something like that, you're going to have to question, is Tua going to be the guy going forward? Does Tua actually deserve the bag? So it's going to be interesting to see how the Dolphins come out after losing that division. The division they probably should have won last year if they were just able to beat teams like the Titans, who they had a 2-touchdown lead up against with 3 or 4 minutes left in the game. They choked that game away, and that really cost them home field advantage. Now they have to go on the road and play a Chiefs team. So we'll see how they respond this year. But I think I have them right around that 8 to 9 win range, just because they're tough schedule, and it's going to be a matter of just how Tua comes out and plays this season. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But I have them right around that 8 to 9 win range there. Next team is the Minnesota Vikings, and I think this team will be right in between 4 to 6 wins. I mean, my point is that it's not, JJ McCarthy. I think it's the right pickup for them, for that offense, or for that quarterback there. I don't think he's in a very bad situation. I don't think he's in a very bad situation. He still has guys like Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison to work with on the offense. Now we'll see if Justin Jefferson. I'm pretty sure he will get his bag. Now, whether if he wants to stay or not, I don't know what the situation is on that, but I think he will stay in Minnesota. So like JJ McCarthy is a guy that is a winner, doesn't beat himself too much. A guy that won a national championship at Michigan. I think he's going to bring those winning qualities to the Minnesota Vikings. Now, am I saying Minnesota is going to be a playoff team? No. Okay, they're in the stacked division with the Bears, with the Lions, and the Packers. I think those teams are better than them. My point is, I still think the Vikings will be competitive. They'll be in most of their games. It's going to be a matter of can they execute in late in those games. There's going to be some growing pains with JJ McCarthy. We all know this. Okay, rookie quarterback stepping in. He's going to have some ups and downs throughout the NFL season. Okay, but this Vikings team will fight. And stuff like that. But they're going to lose a lot of games. Okay, I don't expect them to win many games in 2024, but they will be in most of their games. They will be competitive. They'll put themselves in the mix to win the games. But like I said, it's going to come down to execution, and it's going to come down to just overall talent. In my opinion, I think most teams in the NFC that are in that playoff mix are better than Minnesota Vikings. So we'll see what happens. But I expect Minnesota to finish last in that division, even though they will be competitive and they'll try to do what they can to try to win games. But I have them right between that 5 to 6 win range right there. Next team is the New England Patriots, and I have them going between 7 to 9 wins. Believe it or not, look at this. Okay, so let's talk about the Patriots for a second. Okay, last year, despite the Patriots being so bad offensively last year, they were one of the best defenses towards the end of last year. And that was without Matthew Judon and Christian Gonzalez, two of our best players on that side. Before, Gonzalez won Rookie Player of the Month before going out with that injury. We all know what Judon, how special he is as a player on the edge. Now we're getting those guys back. I'm a Patriots fan, by the way, so I'm speaking on my team. My point is, we're getting those guys back now. And this team it's going to come down to the defense. I think the defense is going to be the main reason why we win games in 2024. Now, our offense is a work in progress. Drake May is our quarterback now. I think Jacoby Brissett will start the season because he's a vet, and obviously he's been here before. He knows the system. I think Jacoby Brissett is the right mentor for a guy like Drake May, and stuff like that. I love the Jalen Polk pickup in the draft. Javon Baker, another wide receiver. Obviously in the draft, great pickup for the Patriots. Now, obviously, some Patriots fans are like, "Oh, well, we didn't really do anything in free agency." Well, yeah, I mean, my point is, we got guys like KJ Osborne, underrated wide receiver. I'm not saying he's the number one wide receiver. My point is, the Patriots won 4 games last year. So, what big time free agent is going to want to go to New England after winning just 4 games? Like, we have to prove to the world, like, hey, we're for real. We're a team that's on the come up for the future. It's not about this year for the Patriots. It's about 2025 and on there. So all I want to see from my team this year is just improvement. Can we win 7? Can we go 7-10 this year? That's all I'm really hoping for the Patriots. If we can go 7-10, I'd be happy with that because I just want to see improvements from this team this year. I think our defense, like I said, is easily a top 5 defense. Our offense, we'll see. It's a week-to-week process with them. If we can be somewhat average this year, we can put ourselves in the mix for about 7-8 wins, but I'm just going to keep it low key because I thought the Patriots last year would win 10 games, and I was completely off with that. So I have them going between like that 6, 7, 8 win range in 2024. I think they will be improved, despite them being in a tough division in the AFC East. I still think they will finish last. Maybe they'll finish third. We'll see if the Jets or maybe the Bills or whoever falls off a little bit, but I expect the Patriots to finish last in that division once again, but they will be improved record-wise. Next team is the New Orleans Saints, and another team, I think they will be between that 7 to 9 win range. I mean, like I said before, I think the Saints team, people aren't really talking about them as much because the Falcons and obviously Tampa Bay is obviously their teams that are talked about more in that division. But I think the Saints, like I said, they're going to be right in the mix, and they're always every year. It seems like they're always in that middle of the pack. type of team that's just on the cusp of making the playoffs. I expect nothing different in 2024. I think they'll be right in the thick of things of potentially making the playoffs or sneaking in as a wild card, or maybe even winning the division. I think they should be in the mix with the Falcons and with Tampa Bay to win that division next year. We'll see what happens. Love to Luis Fuega pick up for the offensive line. It's going to keep Derek Carr upright and stuff like that. So we'll see what happens there. I think the Saints will be competitive, despite them being a little bit old in some spots. They probably do need to get younger in some areas. But like I said, this Saints team is always competitive. So we'll see what happens in 2024. But I think they'll be right in that 7 to 9 win range. I think Saints fans will agree with that. Next team is the New York Giants. They're 1-3, 1 to 3 wins for them in 2024. I just think it's, I just think the Giants. I just don't think they have talent. I just don't think the Giants are that team. Now, the thing I will give them credit is they did get Malik Neighbors in the draft. I think that's a solid pickup because they desperately need playmakers on the outside. But it's really going to come down to what type of Daniel Jones are we going to get in 2024 because he is coming back from an injury. He is coming back from an ACL injury, I believe it was. So my point is, like, what type of Daniel Jones are we going to get in 2024? Can he give the ball to Malik Neighbors on a consistent basis? That's really that's the one thing I'm worried about. Malik Neighbors easily is the best wide receiver on that team right now. He hasn't even seen the field yet, but looking on paper, he is the best wide receiver on that team. So is he going to grow frustrated by not getting the ball enough because Daniel Jones isn't physically able to give him the ball consistently? Because they do have a bad offensive line as well, the New York Giants. They don't have a good offensive line. Why do you think he went out last? Why do you think Daniel Jones went out last year with that injury? My point is that they don't have, or was it year before, whatever it was. My point is the Giants, it's just not a good situation there. Dable, whatever the head coach's name is for the Giants, I think if he doesn't show improvement in 2024, if they somehow get worse, don't be surprised if that dude ends up being fired in the year because it would not surprise me knowing that the New York market, they want to see a winner. That's all Giants fans want to see is New York fans want to see a winner. If the Giants aren't winning games in 2024, they're going to let you have it. And it wouldn't surprise me if he was fired at the end of the year. So my point is, if Daniel Jones underperforms once again in 2024, don't be surprised if the Giants decide to move on from him and get another quarterback in next year's draft. So I think these three teams down, the Panthers, the Broncos, the Giants, I think those are your three worst teams in all of football, in my opinion. So yeah, the Giants, I have right between that 1 and 3 win range. I don't expect them to win many games in 2024. Next team, I have the New York Jets, and they should be right around that 10 to 11 win range. On paper, they look good. Obviously, they had a phenomenal offseason. Olu Fashanu, love to pick up at that in the draft. You never know if Tyron Smith can go down with an injury. He hasn't played a full season really since 2015, 2016. What type of Aaron Rodgers are we going to get in 2024 after going out in 4 plays? So we'll see what happens with the Jets. They have a Super Bowl defense for sure. But it's really going to come down to health. I mean, if the Jets are healthy, then this team can be right around that 10 to 12 win range. But if Aaron Rodgers somehow gets hurt again, they're a 7-win team. They're not. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. If Aaron Rodgers goes out if something happens to Aaron Rodgers again where he doesn't play, where he misses time, the Jets are not making playoffs. It's just that simple. It all comes down to Aaron Rodgers because they paid all that money for him. You got talent now on the offense. You have a Super Bowl defense. Robert Saleh I'm not letting him off the hook either. If he doesn't find a way to get this current Jets team to the playoffs, you're gone. Period. This is really I think in my opinion, this is one of his last shots to get his team to the playoffs. You have everything to work with if you're Robert Saleh. Go out and make something happen. But will it happen? As yet to be seen. It also would not surprise me if the Jets somehow choke and win and only end up with 8 to 9 wins. Would not surprise me one bit because they're the Jets and they haven't proven anything yet. So they have to go out and just prove the world wrong and see what they can do. All that talk they've been doing this offseason, I want to see them back up their talk and I'm curious to see if they're actually a Super Bowl contender. So it'll be interesting to see. But on paper, they should be right around that 10 to 11 win range in 2024. Next team is the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're going to be right in that 7 to 9 win range. Believe it or not, I know Mike Tomlin has never been under 500 in his career. But my point is, they have a tough schedule. I mean, if you look at the Steelers' last 8 games of the season, it's a brutal stretch. They don't play an AFC North opponent until week 11. So my point is, if you're just Pittsburgh Steelers, you have to get off to a good start. You have to start the season off well if you want to put yourself in the playoff conversation once again in 2024. Now, I do believe the quarterback room obviously is much more improved compared to what it was with Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, and Wilson will battle out for the quarterback spot. I think both of those guys honestly will see the field. But love what Pittsburgh did in the draft by getting Troy Fautanu, guy that's a molar on the offensive line. Love the Zach Frazier pickup in the second round. Another guy's gonna, because Pittsburgh didn't have a center currently on the roster, so they went out and got Zach Frazier, in the second round. So that's solid pickup there. Love the Rome Wilson pickup from Michigan. I think he's easily a number 2 option on that team. So Pittsburgh has everything going their way. I mean, like I said, they're going to be competitive once again in 2024. It's just going to be a matter of that last 7-8 games can they get those wins against, in that tough schedule, because that's a tough stretch for them. But there's one team that can prove me wrong again in 2024. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they've done that so far. So I expect them to be over 500 once again. I have them going right around 9-8. Just because, like I said, they're tough schedule, but also would not surprise me to see them winning 10 or 11 wins. So would not surprise me one bit. But for now, I have them right between that 8 to 9 win range just because of that tough schedule. But they will be in the mix for a playoff push for sure. So we'll see what happens there. Next team, I have the Seattle Seahawks, and I have them going between 7 and 9 wins. Yeah, the Seahawks team, obviously, I like what they did in the draft by getting Byron Murphy II to solidify that defense. Yeah, Mike McDonald, a defensive-minded coach, running things now there. So he's going to be mainly focused on that defense for the Seahawks in 2024. So my point is that the Seahawks, Geno Smith is still there. He's a veteran that knows the system. A guy that's not going to beat himself. Now, there are some inconsistencies in there with his play at times. But like I said about the Saints, the Seahawks are always they're always in that middle of the pack type of team that's competitive, that's going to fight, and it's going to be in the playoff mix towards the end of the year. So are they going to be in the playoffs? We'll see. If things really play out for them this season, I think, if they can somehow split with the 49ers, if they can split with teams like the Rams, and then take care of the games outside the division, this team's a potential playoff team. So we're not surprised one bit to see this team in the playoffs. But I think they're going to be right on the cusp of making it. I just think the Rams are better. I think obviously the 49ers are the classes of the NFC. So Seattle's going to they'll have something to say about that. But like I said, I like the direction that they're going, especially on the defensive side of the ball. DK Metcalf is still there. Nobody's really talking about that. I mean, he's still there. Igjiba is still there. So the offense is respectable. So my point is that they'll be competitive once again in 2024. I think Seahawks fans should be excited. I'm mostly excited about their defense because I think Byron Murphy is going to be something special in this league, given what he did at Texas. So it's really going to keep them competitive. So they'll be in the mix for a playoff push in 2024. Next team, I have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I have them going between 10 to 11 wins. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, obviously, this is a team that won the division last year, getting in as a 4th seed at 9-8. They pretty much retained most of their guys. Like I said, you got Baker Mayfield resigned to a deal, obviously. You got Mike Evans re-signed to a deal. And you got your guy Graham Barton in the draft, which I love because it's going to keep Baker Mayfield upright on the offensive line, protect them at all costs. The defense is going to be solid, I guess, this year. So my point is that Tampa Bay, I do have them repeating as the NFC South Falcons. They're going to be in a dog fight to try to win that division. I think it's a 3-team race in that division in the NFC South to try to win that division. But I still think Tampa Bay will win that division, even though it'll be tighter. I just like their core better. I think they'll run it back. Now we'll see how far they get in the playoffs again, but I expect this team, looking on paper, I think they're still the best team in that division, in my opinion. So I think that's the Tampa Bay won that division, get in as a 4 seed, and we'll see what happens there. We'll see how far they can go with this thing in 2024. Next team, I have the Tennessee Titans, and I have them going between 4 to 6 wins. My point is with the Titans, yes, I love the acquisitions they got and the draft. You got J.C. Latham from Alabama to keep Will Levis upright, a guy that's taking a lot of hits towards the end of the year. You got your guy and Tyler Boyd in free agency, Calvin Ridley in free agency. So their offense, I think, is going to be better in 2024. Callahan, I think he's the right coach for this team. I'm excited to see how he puts this thing together in Tennessee. Obviously, Derrick Henry is a big loss for them, is a big loss for the Titans. So I'm curious to see what the running game is going to be like there in Tennessee in 2024. This Titans team isn't as bad as people think they are going to be. Now, some people have this team fighting for a top 3. I don't think the Titans are that bad. My point is, I think they're just in a low division with the Jags, with teams like the Colts, with teams like the Texans, but they'll be competitive. Like, I easily think this is a 6-win, maybe a 7-win team in 2024. I think 6-11 is right around where I have them. Just because, like I said, the low division they're in, and we'll see how Will Levis comes out in his second year or whatever. I think he's in his second or third year. But my point is the Titans will be competitive. They're not a bad team. I just think they're in a low division. I think, like I said, it's going to come down to what type of Will Levis are we going to get in 2024. I think he does have an improved offensive line a little bit now with J.C. Latham there, even though he is a rookie. So there's going to be some growing pains there. But I like the direction that the Titans went. They went all in to get Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd. So they'll be better offensively. It's just going to be a matter of Will Levis, can he execute in late game situations in 2024? So we'll see what happens there. And then the last team is the Washington Commanders. Same thing I say. I think they'll be right around that 4 to 6 win range. I love the coaching staff that the Commanders got. Bringing in a whole new staff, drafting Jaden Daniels with that number 2 overall pick. I think it's the right fit. Now that Cliff Kingsbury is there at coach now. So I like the direction that the Commanders are going. I love the Dejon Newton pickup for that defense. After they're trading away 2 of your best players on that defense in Sweat and Chase Young a year and a half ago, whatever it was. So the Commanders are going to be competitive. I think the same thing I said about the Titans. I think they'll be in most of their games. But it's going to come down to, can Jaden Daniels execute in late game situations? Like, we all know what Jaden Daniels can do with his legs. He loves throwing on the sidelines. He's got to work on throwing the ball in the middle of the field. I think that comes with time and experience. But I think he is a special quarterback, and I think the Commanders are very fortunate to have him have him in that organization, because I think he's going to elevate those guys. And I love also, nobody's really talking about this either. They have a mixture of young players and vets. I love the vets of Bobby Wagner, bringing him there, a guy that's a winner, a guy that's won Super Bowls with the Seattle Seahawks. Austin Eckler from the Chargers, great vet, great pickup there for the Commanders and stuff like that. So they have a mixture of vets and young players that's going to help Jaden Daniels make the game easy for him and just be a mentor, be good mentors for him. So I like the direction the Commanders are going. So I have them right between that 5 to 6 win range. I think they'll be competitive. Despite them being in a rebuild, I think in 2025, you're going to see a much more improved. And they'll be improved this year. But I think next year, if you want to see this team in the playoff mix, I think it will be in 2025, depending on how things play out for them this year. So I have them right around that 5 to 6 win range for them in 2024. So that is going to do it for my NFL tier list for the 2024-25 NFL season. What do you guys think of my predictions? Do you guys agree, disagree? Let me know down below. I'm going to put out more videos here soon. Obviously, I'm going to put out more record prediction videos towards like preseason, each record of each team and stuff like that. We pretty much know where each team is in terms of the roster and stuff like that. So my point is, I'm gonna put out more videos here soon. So keep your eyes out. Make sure you guys are like, share, subscribe to my channel, so that way you won't miss any future videos. Thank you guys again for tuning in to another edition of King Talk Sports. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. I cannot wait until the NFL season. We are currently in June. I'm excited to get more videos out for you guys each and every week. So that's going to be a blast there. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you guys again for tuning in. Without you guys, this wouldn't be possible. Thank you guys so much. And again, tune out. Have a good one, everyone.